Julius Caesar. It is in the life and legacy of Rome's most transformational leader. Introduction. Gaius Julius Caesar is among the most important persons in ancient Rome, having stamped on history his great mark not only as a military commander, but as a statesman and the architect of the transition of Rome from a republic into an empire. In his lifetime, he had wrested military conquests, political reform, and relentless ambition, which somewhat mirrored the volatility of politics and the era of transformation in which he had lived. This paper examines his early life, his rise to the top of the political and military strata of Rome, the reforms he set in place, and the effect he has had on the Roman state and, by extension, on Western history. Early life and power ascendance. Julius Caesar was born into a patrician family called gens Julia in 100 BCE, who claimed descent from Iulus, the son of the Trojan hero Aeneas, said to be the son of Venus. Yet despite such brilliant pedigree, Caesar's family at the time was neither rich nor powerful. His early years were filled with social and political ferment in Rome, a republic destabilized by internal conflicts, economic disparity, and tussles for power among the elite. His uncle by marriage, Gaius Marius, was an important populist leader who opposed the senatorial faction that was being led by Lucius Cornelius Sulla. Young Caesar's political orientation was shaped by the rivalry between Marius and Sulla. It gave him the distrust of the Senate and the taste for populist policies. In his early 20s, Caesar narrowly escaped Sulla's purges and finally crystallized his resolve to strive for power and influence in Roman society. In his early 30s, Caesar had become an experienced soldier, orator, and administrator. He was elected successively to the quaestorship, the aedileship, and finally the praetorship, the ladder of offices which comprised the cursus honorum, and made his mark as charismatic, vigorous, and eloquent. Another significant factor contributing to Caesar's rise was his marriage alliances. His third wife, Calpurnia, married into a family of political clout, raising his standing. In 60 BCE, Caesar contrived the first triumvirate with two of Rome's most powerful men, Pompey the Great and Crassus. The unofficial alliance made it possible for them to pool their resources, influence elections, and sidestep the Senate's constraints, a means in effect of giving Caesar the necessary support to pursue, in turn, a consulship and then governorship of Gaul. Military expeditions and expansion. Caesar's genius as a general revealed itself during his governorship of Gaul between 58 and 50 BCE. The campaigns he conducted in Gaul, known to us through Commentarii de Bello Gallico, commentaries on the Gallic War, subjugated enormous areas to the Romans and rendered Caesar very popular before his army and before the Roman people. Caesar's troops crossed the Germania and even implemented the first Roman invasion of Britain, showing both his strategic daring and tactical flexibility. The Gallic Wars, by nature of the very fact that Caesar was often outmanned, yet still managed to win, served as a great precursor to the rise in wealth and influence that he enjoyed in Rome. Caesar expanded Roman territory in his campaigns, while simultaneously securing loyalty within his legions, to position him as one of the most influential men in Rome. This victory also spread Roman culture, laws and infrastructure into newer regions, laying the bedrock for Romanization in Western Europe. The success of Caesar in Gaul contributed to his position as a military and political force, and at the same time alienated him from Pompey and the Senate, which established a civil war and dictatorship. As Caesar's power increased, so did tension between him and Pompey, along with the death of Crassus in 53 BCE, and thus the breakdown of his alliance. Alarmed evermore by Caesar's amorous Senate, ordered him to disband his army and return as a private citizen to Rome. He responded by marching his army across the Rubicon River in 49 BCE, famously saying "Alea jacta est," meaning the die is cast, an act of defiance that initiated a civil war against Pompey. Caesar's campaign against Pompey and his adherents was an affair of military brilliance and political pragmatism. Defying the backing of Pompey by the Senate, Caesar obtained a series of rapid victories, all of which culminated in the defeat of Pompey at Pharsalus in 48 BCE. Following Pompey to Egypt, and then being a witness to his assassination, Caesar was enmeshed in Egyptian matters, including his celebrated liaison with Queen Cleopatra VII. The alliance of Caesar and Cleopatra advanced his political cause by establishing him as an ally in Egypt, an essential granary for Rome. He was given numerous appointments as dictator, and he was even named Dictator Perpetuo, the dictator for life in 44 BCE. His rule gave stability to Rome after years of civil war and undertook a series of reforms directed at strengthening the state, eradicating indebtedness, and improving the condition of the Roman people. Still, this accumulation and concentration of power, combined with disregard for the traditional republican checks, raised suspicion and resentment among Rome's elite and resulted in his assassination on the Ides of March, 44th BCE. Political and social reforms. Caesar was able to accomplish a few reforms during his brief rule as dictator, which would have continued to affect Roman society and government for generations to come. Caesar's reforms touched on debt, administration, calendar, and citizenship. One of his most enduring legacies is the Julian calendar, a solar-based calendar system that replaced an immensely complicated and often manipulated Roman calendar. This Julian calendar, with minor changes, is the basis for today's Gregorian calendar. Caesar tried to improve economic hardship in establishing new colonies and land for veterans and the poor, skipping the class to bring about social mobility and economic stability. His policies had the aim of undermining the power of the Senate through centralization. The enlargement of the Senate, by including representatives from the whole of Italy and the provinces, so as to dilute the strength of the traditional aristocracy. While these reforms increased his popularity amongst the lower classes and the provinces, it also contributed to the perception that he undermined the institutions of the Republic and moved towards monarchy. Legacy and impact. His death marked the end of an era, the end of the Roman Republic, and the beginning of something entirely different. These power struggles gave rise to the adopted heir of Caesar, Octavian, later Rome's first emperor, Augustus. Caesar's life and actions transformed not only Roman governance, but also left a profound impact on future generations. His career exemplified the tensions of the late Republic, in which ambitious individuals might take advantage of the weaknesses of a system that made such ambition possible. The reforms and expansionist policies of Caesar greatly incided on the anatomy of the Roman Empire that was to last for centuries. The standard he set for a Roman general and emperor has been followed, while his writings, especially Commentari de Bello Gallico, give an insight into Roman military strategy and propaganda. His life and death continue to symbolize both the potential for great leadership and the dangers of unchecked power. The impact of Caesar's life extends well beyond the confines of ancient Rome. He appears in art and literature, in political thought, and in the popular imagination. Shakespeare's Julius Caesar is just one out of many versions of the fall of his rise, as a moralizing fable about the rewards and costs of ambition, loyalty, and betrayal. Caesar was also the first ruler to devise a system of government that balanced popular backing with centralized authority, the desideratum of later rulers, which is why he remains such an important figure in historical and contemporary perspectives today.